there is a slight difference between Chloe's question, like how to tune in and connect psychically, and then Tina's question around opening the third eye. Because the third eye, right up here, that's the chakra, is associated with receiving things psychically. However, it's not the only way, and that's something that I always like to emphasize in these workshops, is because we have different clairs and they are associated with different chakras in the body. So the third eye is not the only way to get psychic information in. That being said, most of the time when people think of intuition or psychic abilities, they associate it with the third eye and related with clairvoyance, which is in this area. That's the psychic clair that's associated with the third eye, because that's visions, visuals, dreams, premonitions, etc. However, yes, it's great to activate that. That was the first space that I worked on when I attended my psychic development school, because I was walking around thinking, oh, I'm not really good at picturing things. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And the joke was on me because I've always been a very vivid dreamer. And inherently that means that I am super visual and I do have that. I just didn't think that in my waking life, walking around, that I'd be able to see anything and that it would work, or it's not as clear as, me having a physical object that I'm looking at. And it's not going to look like that in everyone's mind. And for mine, it doesn't look as clear as something that I am seeing in front of me. And we have a risk there of assuming that it's not fully operational, it's not working. So kind of on Tina's part of the question, is it blocked? Or do we just have a perception of what we think it should be like to experience an open third eye? That's a place setting. Some quick responses, like how you could open and activate it. Number one, attending something like this, because it's about practice. So practicing is really, really important. I always like to say intuition is a muscle. So when you work it, when you do different exercises like we're going to be doing later, when you're experimenting with it, it allows you to unlock it, open it up more, and get rid of some of the labels, blocks, parameters that we have around, expectations that we have around it. So one practice, and practice could look like some of the things that we will be doing later. Meditation, like what Chloe was talking about, like a visualization practice. So you could do a guided meditation, and I'm sure there's many. I know I have a few, but I'm sure there are many others on Insight Timer where you are sitting there and you're visualizing something. Even just doing that, like the visualizing of anything. It's like, oh, imagine a tree and then the leaves are blowing. That is the skill right there. And that's not even psychic. So that's something you can use to prime, again, in a very basic way, practicing visualization in different forms, engaging with your dreams, because maybe you're someone who could receive information through your dreams. So you could have a dream log, tracking that. And then the third thing that I always recommend, and I recommend that people do when we practice today in these exercises, is to ask. As in asking your spirit team, like, hello out there, whether we've connected previously or not. It is my intention to develop my intuition. I would appreciate your support as we're going through these exercises today. Please send me insights through clairvoyance, through my third eye. I would like to see images. I know that this is going to be a newer experience for me. I promise to be patient with that process, and please continue trying, and I will, look to receive that information. Literally something to that effect. You could do that every time that you sit down. You could do it, randomly throughout the day. So if you're just like, hey, I want to just practice with my clairvoyance. You can just ask a question like, um, getting a visual, like maybe you're outside, you're shopping, or you're in a parking lot, and you're going to try to predict like what's somebody going to walk out of the restaurant with, like what do they order, like what do they get for ice cream or something like that. And you can call in, like this is a very simple, just kind of random, I don't know why this popped in. But you're setting that intention, like I'd like a visual for that, and then you're not like looking, searching, you're asking, you're requesting, you're setting the intention, you're opening the energetic portal to receive, and then it's about you switching the brain off a little bit and being willing and open to receive and try to not judge it, because that's one of the bigger blocks that we have is second guessing what comes through, or actually thinking it's our intuition, but it really is just our mind like coming up with something. And that's part of what we practice in these sessions as well. So you can give yourself exercises, you can start tracking, you can start just requesting in really small ways. And meditation in general is just a great practice, mindfulness practice. It supports everything that I just mentioned. If you can train your mind to catch the interference, quiet it, move it away, it makes it easier to see, literally, what is emerging for you. So there's more than one way to activate it. You also could do energy work, Reiki work, etc., in this third eye area as well. So I don't know how many things I just listed, probably 5 or 6 different suggestions. You could use crystals that help. Again, that's energy work, or different scents. Obviously, that's engaging with a different clair, but you're connecting to your senses, you're connecting to your body, you're grounding, you're calming, you're centering, relaxing your nervous system. All of the above helps with receiving. If we're in a elevated, frazzled, hypervigilant state, it's harder to receive, not even just in the third eye, but in general. So I was trained that you step into a psychic space. So it's visualization. So you drop in, you picture yourself or like an avatar of you in a space, a world that you have built. You could have a screen pop up, or you could have like something where you can then visualize or project. It's like you're creating like a reality within the reality, and then you're sitting here. And so you add all these layers, so it's extremely neutral. It's very removed from you. And then when you're asking the questions, you're casting it on that space. I don't really need to do that anymore. And maybe this is the other part of your question. Are you trying to read yourself? Because that's a whole other thing. But when I'm trying to read other people, as I do every Monday, and then when people book readings with me through my business, I'm just focusing on connecting with them and their energy. So I literally, and you see this if you book a reading with me, especially the ones that are 60-minute, I literally I chat with them for a few minutes as we get settled, and, explain what the process is going to be, see if they have any questions about it. And I just take a few breaths, just close my eyes, shake out a little bit, take a few deep breaths, fully clearing. Like, so it's not like I'm thinking about anything else. It's only the person that's in front of me. And then I have them say their name a few times. And then I start with, and this was something that I was taught, and I do continue to do this in my 60-minute readings. I share like what's the initial image or message or language that came through. And then either it provides immediate validation, or they're not quite sure about it. And so we can explore. And I think honestly, it's just a matter of building trust. So I kind of have trimmed off doing a lot of special things. I don't do a ritual before, and I know so many people that do before and or after rituals with readings. I literally could roll out of bed and then just like quickly change, grab some water, and then just sit down, do exactly what I just described, which takes like 2 minutes, mostly just chatting with them, and then like making sure they're comfortable, and then just drop in. So fortunately, I've practice enough, and that's not going to be for everyone. There could be people, and I know people, other intuitives, where they've practiced as much as I have, and they still need to have some sort of a ritual. So this is where it like depends entirely on the person. So there is no right or wrong. How you know if you need something, either a pre, a post, or both, is how you feel. So if I am leaving my readings and I'm like, I feel like I'm in a fog, I feel like I'm really out of it, I'm really tired, or I feel like I'm picking up on I'm holding on to some of their energy and haven't released it, then it's like, okay, I really, need to do something to kind of reset and shake that. And some people, they do a ritual before, and that ritual might include doing a pre-reading and just jotting a few things down, and then they share it. Um, or it's just that they're clearing the space, they're neutralizing their energy, and so they like to do that with a ritual, and it might be something luxurious, and that's where it is 100% the person's preference and what kind of experience they want. And I'm only describing if this is something that's virtual. If you have a reading that's in person, that can be a whole other story. So, can you do that if you're going to be meeting someone in person if you don't have an office? So there's a lot of variations. If you're trying to just read yourself, you're trying to tune in, you're just trying to connect with your guides and request information on something specific, or the question I always ask is, what do I need to know? What do I need to know today? And that's a really simple one. If I'm looking into something more and ask a more targeted question, I often will have cards with me to kind of supplement, verify, or a journal. And so I'm writing things down. So I'm channeling and writing it out. That's normally what I do. And that helps me kind of focus it and again, be present. And I ask questions. So if I ever catch myself wondering, is that true? Or why is that coming in? I'll just stop and I'll just ask the follow-up and I'll go again. But I make sure that if I am going to read into myself, that's where I do something that more resembles a ritual, because I need to get fully out. I'm not doing for somebody else. I have to clear myself more intentionally, because it's just like me sitting here. So I will probably put on meditation music or something, maybe do brief yoga practice or have some sort of movement that I'm doing right before, or doing something kind of relaxing to like wind my energy down. And then I will, as I mentioned, have a journal or notebook or have cards or something to that effect. And then just make sure that I am neutralized and grounded, and then dedicate the time. And then I don't cling too tightly to whatever it is that comes through. Sometimes I'll just sit with it, and then I might revisit it in another day or two, or I might talk to one of my psychic friends and say, hey, and ask them neutrally and not tell them what I got, and just see if they get the same thing. I just do that as verification. So that's another reason why it's not uncommon that and this happens even in my Insight Timer mini readings, is, and I've experienced this myself when I've received readings. We kind of know something. We kind of think this is what we're supposed to do, or this is how we're feeling. And part of the reason that we want the reading is because we want the validation. We want someone who doesn't know us from a hole in a wall, or someone who is very neutral, doesn't know the things that we know about our own life and our past experiences and what's swirling around in our head, to be able to validate and affirm what it is that we are thinking, feeling, wondering about, or what our gut is telling us to do. And we just need the permission to trust it. And oftentimes that is something that happens when I am giving readings, is they're like, yeah, I know, I've been thinking about that a lot. And so they know that they should do that. They have been receiving information telling them to do that. But sometimes we need reps. We need it coming from different tools, different forms, different people. And then when you do that enough times, you start realizing you can get rid of that, because you can just listen to the initial message that comes through and go, well, I know this is like the other times. This feels like the other times. And I don't need to check with like 10 other people or 10 other tools. I'm just going to trust myself this time. So all of it is a process of learning, practice, development. And sometimes the development isn't just of the skill itself, but it's of your ability to listen to it. Normally what I do when I pick the cards, like if I'm doing a spread for myself, um, essentially what I'm looking for is I'm either saying like, okay, I'm doing this card spread and each of them is going to represent X, Y, or Z thing. In this case, it's going to be days of the week. So normally I would just go in order and be like, okay, I'm looking for Monday. And then I'll just kind of keep either shuffling or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of when you're fanning out the cards and like looking until I kind of get like a yes, or it's like I get drawn to a certain card. I'm looking for Monday, and then I just got drawn to one that was like, here's Tuesday. So that's why I'm bringing this up. It's like, then sometimes you get you get interrupted. Does this feel like Monday? And what I always do is I always validate. So as I'm going and at the end, I'll check and be, so again, they're all face down. I'll be like, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Just to double check, triple check my work, if you will, but selections. Even me just explaining it is some good background for anybody that doesn't draw cards or is unfamiliar. 1111 with this type of process, and everybody does things a little bit differently. Trust is a big thing for me at the moment, and I'm being reminded of this almost daily. Well, Bev, when I see something like that, where I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous. Why does this keep coming up over and over again? I feel like I'm being hit over the head with this. Then when this has happened enough times, I then sit there and take the pause and go, okay, then I must not actually be doing it, because it wouldn't keep coming up if I think I'm doing it, but I'm not all in. And when it comes to something like trust, it means surrender. It's very hard for Virgo energy. Virgo wants order, it wants control, wants stability as an earth sign. And trust can be messy and can feel really, really uncomfortable. So if you continue to keep seeing this is a really great activity and week for taking inventory on where you are not really fully surrendering into trust and release of control.